Before we begin today, I want to share some Shastra we had at a reading with Nalini and Ratna on Bhagavad Gita on Wednesday night. Of course, we're reading about the expansions of the Lord and the Brahma Vimohan Lila, the bewilderment of Brahma. And this section from Krishna's instructions to Arjuna in chapter 10, the opulence of the absolute. Pardon? Somebody say something? Okay. Is pertinent. Prabhupada says in the purport to 1:10:7, generally people know who somebody's got their, please mute whoever you are. Thank you. Generally, people know that God is great, but they do not know they do not know in detail how God is great. Here are the details. If one knows factually how God is great, then naturally he becomes a surrendered soul and engages himself in devotional service of the Lord. When one factually knows the opulences of the Supreme, there is no alternative but to surrender to him. This factual knowledge can be known from descriptions in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and similar literature. So here we see what we're reading in our lessons nowadays is the bewilderment of the first created being, the direct son of Garbhodakshai Vishnu, the creator of the entire universe, Lord Brahma. Even he became completely bewildered, mystified, stunned by the Lord's opulence. So what to speak of us, tiny little creatures in human bodies on one of the lower middle planetary systems, like a speck in the cosmos compared to the Lord. So let us enter into these descriptions that we can all glean instructions from. We are reading from June 2024, lessons 3 and 4. This is the continuation of chapter 13, the stealing of the boys and calves by Brahma continued. Samapriya, can you pick someone to read, please, to start us off?
Yes, thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone, welcome. This is a very bewildering pastime, bewildering to Brahma and to everyone else. So, but we're here to solve it. Let's start off today with Manvantara. Would you like to read Manvantaraji?
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 13, Text 12 and 13. O Maharaj Parikshit, while the cowherd boys who knew nothing within the core of their hearts but Krishna were thus engaged in eating their lunch in the forest, the calves went far away, deep into the forest, being allured by green grass. When Krishna saw that his friends, the cowherd boys, were frightened, he, the fierce controller, even of fear itself, said, just to mitigate their fear, my dear friends, do not stop eating. I shall bring your calves back to this spot by personally going after them myself. Purport. In the presence of Krishna's friendship, a devotee cannot have any fear. Krishna is the supreme controller, the controller of even death, which is supposed to be the ultimate fear in this material world. This fear arises because of lack of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, there cannot be any fear. For one who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, this world of fear becomes hardly dangerous at all.
Wow, thank you, Manvantara. So what about fear? This is something that plagues all of us. Yeah. How is it that, what can you say about becoming freed from fear?
Must be a wonderful feeling, right?
Well, it looks like the more Krishna conscious we are, the less fear we have.
Yeah, that's true too.
Anyone else have something to say about fear? Big topic.
Nanda raised her hand.
Nandaji, didn't even see you. You please speak.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Srila Prabhupada says in many places in his purports that the greatest fear is at the time of death, when one's leaving their body. So I just wanted to remind the devotees the transcendentally sad fact that this is the last chapter that Srila Prabhupada translated. So he's in a very quote unquote debilitated condition, but obviously not debilitated at all, and obviously not fearful at all, and is still transcendentally fixed on Krishna's lotus feet and on a spiritual master. But I just wanted to remind people of that, because we're going to get to the point and it's going to be the end of the chapter, and then we're going to say, oh yeah, but if we remember it now while we're reading these verses and purports, it makes them even more relishable in that sense. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Nanda. Such a wonderful,
Yeah,
important
thank you.
point. Yeah, I remember a couple of weeks ago when my husband was preparing all of this, he came into the room and said, I just read the last verse that Prabhupada translated. It's a bit too much, but we have to face this and go on deepening our Krishna consciousness. Nanda, would you like to read the next section?
You have to unmute, Nanda. Thank you.
Sorry, I thought I did, but thank you kindly. 10th canto, 13th chapter, text 14. Let me go and search for the calves, Krishna said. Don't disturb your enjoyment. Then, carrying his yogurt and rice in his hand, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna immediately went out to search for the calves of his friends. To please his friends, he began searching in all the mountains, mountain caves, bushes, and narrow passages. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The Vedas assert that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has nothing to do personally, because he is doing everything through his energies and potencies. Parasha Shaktar Vividhaya Shruyate. Nonetheless, here we see that he took personal care to find the calves of his friends. This was Krishna's causeless mercy. All the affairs of the entire world and the entire cosmic manifestation are working under his direction through his different energies. Still, when there is a need to take care of his friends, he does this personally.
Okay, Nanda, one question while you describe this. He did it, could you bring the thing back, Pati, I'm sorry. He did it personally. He did it personally. He dropped everything to do this personally. He took personal care to find the calves of his friends, even though, what can you say about that?
Well, it's interesting. He says, I'm going to go do it. Don't you be disturbed. I don't want you to be disturbed. He even says that. I mean, how intimate and personal is that? And that's so intimate and so personal. And so Prabhupada alludes to that in the purport too. I mean, that's what his whole purport is stressing, how the Lord, being the supreme controller of the entire cosmic creation through his energies, personally takes care of his friends. And so Prabhupada would always say that about even aspiring devotees, like our neophyte selves, Krishna's personally arranging things in our lives. In Sri Upanishad, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, I never can remember which purport, but it's like 8th or 9th or 10th, towards the end of Sri Upanishad, in the purport, Prabhupada says that probably in that verse it says, please remember all that I've done for you. In the purport there, Prabhupada says that Krishna, even if a devotee can't remember Krishna at the time of death, Krishna will force himself into the devotee's remembrance. So how personal is that? Krishna is such a caring, loving person, and still hard-headed dumbskulls like myself, we forget that, and we think, I got to do it on my own, or he's not helping me, or whatever. But these kind of things are really important to remember.
And also that he's not seeing our endeavor. He is seeing our endeavor. That's why he's forcing himself into our minds.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, let's go on now with Acharya. Would you like to read Acharya?
Yes, I'd love to. Srimad Bhagavatam 10, chapter 13, text 15. O Maharaj Parikshit, Brahma, who resides in the higher planetary system in the sky, had observed the activities of the most powerful Krishna in killing and delivering Aghasura, and he was astonished. Now that same Brahma wanted to show some of his own power and see the power of Krishna, who was engaged in his childhood pastimes, playing as if with ordinary cowherd boys. Therefore, in Krishna's absence, Brahma took all the boys and calves to another place. Thus, he became entangled, for in the very near future, he would see how powerful Krishna was. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When Aghasura was being killed by Krishna, who was accompanied by his associates, Brahma was astonished. But when he saw that Krishna was very much enjoying his pastimes of lunch, he was even more astonished and wanted to test whether Krishna was actually there. Thus he became entangled in Krishna's Maya. After all, Brahma was born materially. He was born of a lotus flower. It does not matter that he was born of a lotus and not of any man, animal, or material father. A lotus is also material, and anyone born through the material energy must be subject to the four material deficiencies: Brahma, the tendency to commit mistakes; Pramada, the tendency to be illusioned; Vipralipsa, the tendency to cheat; and Karanapatava, imperfect senses. Thus, Brahma also became entangled.
Go on.
Brahma wanted to take away Krishna's associates, but instead he took away some other boys and calves. Ravana wanted to take away Sita, but that was impossible, and instead he took away Amaya Sita. Similarly, Brahma took away Mayar Baka, boys manifested by Krishna's Maya. Brahma could show some extraordinary opulence to the Mayar Baka, but he could not show any extraordinary potency to Krishna's associates. That he would see in the very near future. This bewilderment, this Maya, was caused by the supreme controller, Prabhavata, the all-potent supreme person, Krishna, and we shall see the result. This pastime is therefore called Brahma Vimohana Lila, the pastime of bewildering Brahma. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Brahma was thinking, quote, when I steal the boys and calves, will Krishna show some power and another wonderful pastime? Will he search and find the cows himself, or come to me and pray to get them back? Or will he not be able to understand anything? Unquote. Such thoughts were possible only because Brahma was bewildered by the Lord's energy. Thus, when Brahma desired to steal the boys and calves, Yogamaya hid the real boys and calves, and Mahamaya instantly produced exact replicas for Brahma to steal.
Oh my goodness. So there's a lot of intricate activity between Maya, Mahamaya, and Yogamaya here that could be very confusing. Can you explain some of these things?
It's completely confusing. I tried diving into this after I spoke with your husband at the Bhagavad Gita class, and I just went looking it up, and I'm completely bewildered. It's very intricate and complicated, and different acharyas have different analyses, so it's very complex. I don't know what I could say about it. I really like Prabhupada's bringing up the four defects, the Brahma, Pramada, Vipralips, and Karanapatava. That's I think an important point to remember. And we hear people bring it up in classes pretty regularly also. It's an important point. And especially Mataji brought up Ishopanishad in that lecture from England. That's edited to be the introduction of Ishopanishad. Prabhupada discusses those things really excellently.
Right. So, this is the first time, and I've been reading the story over and over again for 50 years. And now I'm hearing that these boys are just like Sita was replaced. And I somehow I didn't catch that before, but these are not. Brahma didn't steal the real boys. He stole and so now where are the real boys? And then Ian will ask you to speak for a moment. But where did Krishna put the real boys?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I sort of dove into this, and I'll preface this by saying, I looked at a lot of different acharyas, commentaries. It's from a translation by a person. I don't know who he is. I like to use Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu's and Bhanu Swami's translations. This is a person, a devotee named Gaurapad. I don't know who he is, but in that translation, some of the acharyas, they're all, so many of them are saying different things. One says, some of them just say, oh, they were put to sleep somewhere, that they were put to sleep for that 1 year because if they were awake, they couldn't tolerate separation from Krishna. Baladev Vidyabhushan says that the cowherd boys actually remain there, although no one can see them, performing their regular pastimes with Krishna for that 1 year, although invisible to everyone else. And that 1 year passed in just a moment, just like in the Rasa dance when the night lasted a day of Brahma, but it only felt like a moment. So that 1 year went by, and the cowherd boys actually continued their pastimes with Krishna. And then Srila Sanatana Goswami just says that they were there without explaining much, that they were there but invisible to everyone. So what all that means, I don't know. It's very it's confusing, and it was fun and interesting to read it, but I don't feel like I really understand it any better.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Prabhu. And first Ian and then Nanda to solve all of this. Thank you. Ian, would you like to speak?
Krishna devotees. So I was laughing a bit when there's a part in the purport they said that Brahma got himself implicated in the mire, because they were saying, okay, let me do such and do such and do such. And if I do this, let me see. So I'm trying to remember in the passing, the demon Agasura, when he said that if I kill Krishna and the boys, then the life and soul of the chord men and women. So when they die, once the boys and the calves and Krishna dies, then everybody will die. So, and also we have to be careful of what one asks for. Brahma was saying, hey, let me see what will happen. So we have to be careful about that. And also the part when said, the real boys were taken away by is it Mama? There were some real boys who weren't taken by Brahma. So as you said about Sita and Ravana thought, yes, I had a real Sita. But in discussing, yes, for me, I'm trying to be just a little bit be calm to absorb the Leela and to say, look, why, Krishna Leela is the best. I mean, there's so much different parts. I mean, we are fortunate in the sense that we are here listening to narration and getting different parts. Yes, so I'm saying, it's very deep, but thanks for this and that. Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Nanda, thank you. Nandaji, would you like to now solve?
Well, I want to solve the. I have a different point. So do you want to continue on your point before you bring up my point?
No, that would be pointless.
Okay, so but just to confirm what Acharya said, Prabhu, a few years back on these Govardhan retreat things that Purijan Prabhu does, he did a whole thing on this one, on this Brahma Vimohan Leela. It was like extremely detailed and extremely interesting. And he said that, he quoted the chart, I think it was whoever it was, one of the acharyas, who said the cowherd boys were invisible. They stayed in the same spot and they invisibly performed their pastimes there, but no one else could see what was going on. But Anyway, so aside from that, here's where my question comes in. In the purport that was quoted in the first part of the purport, it says, after all, Brahma was born materially. As mentioned before at Ambojama Jani, he was born of an Amboja, lotus flower. Doesn't matter that he was born of a lotus flower and not of a man. A lotus flower is material. So that just totally bewildered me, because that lotus flower comes from, the navel of Mahavishnu. I never, before this, I never considered it material. Not, not that I'm saying, but you know what I mean? That Prabhupada's description of the lotus flower being material. And I just wondered if anybody had anything to say about that.
The only thing I could think of, and then we'll hear from Malini, is that the whole material energy comes from Krishna. In the same way, the lotus flower comes from Krishna, and it's material, it's in material energy, that there must be some passage between the two, because everything we're doing here, this is ultimately from Krishna. We have to see the spiritual nature of it somehow or another. Malini.
It's very interesting because I had 2 points, and it's exactly the same point that Mosananda made. One is that I really like Acharya Prabhu. I think you said Baladev Vidibhushan explanation, and like those boys, they were unmanifested to the eyes. They were, because even now when we go to Vrindavan, we want to have the meditation that Krishna is performing the rasa dance. Krishna is in Vrindavan, he never leaves Vrindavan. So in the same way, okay, I will stretch my mind to, okay, during that year, they were not manifested, but they were never separated from Krishna. So that's very beautiful. Thank you. And my other question was about the lotus flower, because the lotus flower, it comes from, I wanted to ask the same question as Mosananda, basically, because I was bewildered by that. And recently, as I was bewildered by that, I'm reading different places, so I'm not sure where it is, maybe in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Srila Prabhupada said that the entire, creation within the universe is contained in that lotus flower, the stem. That so. Of course, nothing is material and nothing is spiritual. And so it's like maybe, okay, according to where we look from, what angle we look at it, like that. So I had the same question.
Very interesting. It's very difficult to understand spirit in terms of material energy. That is what we're trying to do here. And I just can't. That has to be the solution for me. There's a lot happening that we can't see. For example, a very dear friend, just passed away. Where did she go? Where do we go? And why can't we access something other than the body? These questions are very important to address. Pati, maybe you can help us here with a solution to all these very profound questions.
My mind goes to our recent readings in our Chaitanya Charitamrita group. We were reading Lord Chaitanya's explanation to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya about the difference between the Vaishnav concepts and the Mayavad concepts. And he was just explaining to Sarvabhauma Sankaracharya's misconception that Brahman is transformed when manifesting in the material energy. Lord Chaitanya explained that there are 2 basic energies, the same way that Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita. There's the superior energy, which is the spiritual energy. It's eternal. It's constantly manifest. And then there's the material energy, which is manifest at times and unmanifest at other times in the form of pradhan. So this concept of the spirit of the lotus flower emanating from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu in each universe, all of it is inferior material creation. from the time of, we read this in the third canto for those of you who were with us during that study. Mahavishnu lies in the ocean, causal ocean, glances over the Pradhan, and by that agitation of his glance, material energy, which is the entire Pradhan, the entire material creation, the Mahatattva, starts to manifest and becomes agitated, just like a seed becomes agitated or germinated when put into the ground, put water on it, put sunlight on it, and what's inside comes out, the flower, the plant, the tree. Similarly, the Pradhan manifests all the material creation. So each universe, of course, Garbhodakshai Vishnu in each universe is not material. He is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord. The entire lotus comes from his navel. Within that lotus flower, as Malini was explaining, the 14 planetary systems are located. And at the very top of the lotus is the flower itself, which is the abode of Brahma. So yes, it's material. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada is saying that everyone, from Brahma down to the smallest creature in every universe throughout the entire Mahatattva, is subject to being bewildered by that energy in those 4 different ways mentioned in the purport. Even Brahma.
Good.
What to
So-
speak of us?
Okay. Thank you. Is everyone clear on this? Okay. Thank you. Let's go on and see if it does become a little bit clearer with Faye reading.
It was serendipitous that we had just read that explanation by Lord Chaitanya to Sarvabhauma. That's where that comes from.
Yeah. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:13-16. Thereafter, when Krishna was unable to find the calves, he returned to the bank of the river. But there he was also unable to see the cowherd boys. Thus he began to search for both the calves and the boys, as if he could not understand what had happened. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Krishna could immediately understand that Brahma had taken away both the calves and the boys. But as an innocent child, he searched here and there so that Brahma could not understand Krishna's Maya. This was all a dramatic performance. A player knows everything, but still he plays on the stage in such a way that others do not understand him. You have to help me pronounce that.
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur.
Thakur. The phrase not seeing the calves, unquote, Krishna returned, means that it was an appearance of not seeing them, for Krishna knew exactly where they were. Krishna did this to make Brahma believe that he could bewilder anyone, including Bhagavan. Then Krishna began looking for the boys and calves. Playing the part of a distressed actor, Krishna appeared to be looking for them. Later in verse 61, it says, quote, Brahma saw Krishna, the actor, not Yam, in the form of a cowherd boy, unquote.
Natyam means a player in an actor in a play, a dancer. So that's why that makes sense.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So, do you have something to say about this? This is not easy stuff to understand here. What do you think, Faye? Can you comment on this?
Yes, Mataji, my comments may not be as enlightened as we would hope. However,
That's right.
I am thrilled to see Krishna being himself. He is mischievous. He is the perfect person to cheat if he is the most perfect cheater. the most perfect player, the most perfect of all things, then certainly he's going to play his part beautifully, because Lord Brahma is, quote, getting a lesson. If I go back to the last sentence of the previous purport to verse 15, I loved it when it says, materially born persons cannot fully understand Krishna. Even demigods cannot understand him. Everyone from Brahma down to the small insect must take lessons from Krishna. Well, we are the beneficiaries of learning the lesson that Brahma was taking in. It's always perfect to see what Krishna is sharing with us, showing us. Discussing this is wonderful. I'm fascinated by all of the layers on that stage that Krishna is performing on. It's for the benefit of us all. And I think it's perfect that he is the perfect actor. He is playing the perfect part as the innocent cowherd boy. So he is perfectly deceiving Brahma in order to teach him a lesson.
Good. Very, very good. Yeah, I have a question here. In a previous, I don't know if it was a purport or a verse, Rama was thinking, oh, maybe Prabhupada just said in the purport, is Krishna going to be bewildered or fearful? You know, he was actually contemplating, it ran through his mind that my activities would actually bewilder and confuse Krishna. Will he not know anything? So that he was like toying with the idea that Krishna actually is not as powerful as I am.
Yeah, one of the things I like that when he was saying, he said, I wonder if he'll come and pray to me to find them.
That's exactly. I mean, so that you got to really be a little bit covered up for that. But of course, the relationship between Lord Brahma and Krishna, it is not ordinary. It's not ordinary because he's not ordinary. And we have to remember, keep repeating this in different groups.
Right.
He is the head of our sampradaya. He is the Param Guru. Nandaji, what would you like to say?
I just, this last comment, Dhruva Maharaj Prabhu's last comment just reminded me of, and I think it's Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Yeah, it is. Okay. All right, because now I remember the part. Okay, he comments that sometimes when we read these second canto, the third canto, and the process of creation, we think, oh my gosh, it's so complicated, so difficult to understand, etc., etc. But Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments there that he says that actually we need to hear those fundamental principles of creation, etc., over and over again, because we need to understand that Krishna is that all potent personality. And he said, actually, the activities of creation are much more easier to understand because they're very straightforward. Although they're complicated, they're straightforward. Whereas Krishna's pastimes, although appearing cute little pastimes, mischievous child, this and that, they're so much more complicated and more difficult to understand the real import and purport of those pastimes. Just thought it was
that makes sense. That makes sense. Acharya, thank you, Nanda.
Yeah, thank you, Nanda. That was good.
I really love how Krishna knew, of course, knew where everyone was, but Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says he acted as though he didn't. And I was thinking, like someone who's a parent will know this, that when you have little kids and they first learn how to play hide and seek, and they go to hide, and they're so bad at hiding, like they're behind the curtain, but their feet are sticking out or something stupid like that. But the parent doesn't say, there you are, you're so stupid, you're so bad at hiding. But the parent goes, oh, where are you? Where are you? Just to, to let the game, let the play unfold. So I really like how Krishna's sort of doing like that. He knows everything, but he's acting, oh, where are you?
Oh,
In order just to let the whole pastime unfold. I really love that.
What a wonderful point. That is so sweet. Thank you. Faye, did you want to say something?
Yes, Mataji, thank you. I'm reminded of the many times that Indra decided to think, I am this, I am that, I am more important. Why aren't you offering sacrifices to me, the powerful being that brings the thunderstorms? The whole Gordon Hill pastime. In other words, we take away the lesson that every time we get cocky, we have to remember that even demigods get cocky.
Yeah.
So we have to expect that our false ego, our bewilderment, our tendency to get cocky, we need a lesson. And the lesson is always provided in the most perfect way by the most perfect teacher at the most perfect time.
Perfect. And that's perfect. Thank you. That is so, so true. And I know that all of us experience that. Thank you very much. All right, let's go on now with Ian. Would you like to read, Ian? Now, Ian has so many valuable things to say, but he has tendency to speak real fast because he gets so excited about them. So Ian, please speak slowly and clearly, because I don't want to miss what you have to say.
I try, you know, I'm getting all excited and
I know
yeah.
you get excited,
Okay.
so try to.
Okay,
Thank
so Srimad Bhagavatam 10.13, 17 to 18. When Krishna was unable to find the calves and their caretakers, the cowherd boys, anywhere in the forest, he could suddenly understand that this was the work of Lord Brahma. Thereafter, just to create pleasure both for Brahma and for the mothers of the calves and cowherd boys, Krishna, the creator of the entire cosmic manifestation, expanded himself as calves and boys. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. But Brahma, believing that he had bewildered Krishna, was being mystified by the Lord's energy. Krishna, along with his calves and boy friends, returned home and began performing his usual pastimes, such as eating, as if they were never bewildered by Brahma. This is not at all astonishing. In order to show his ability to bewilder everyone, including Brahma, Balaram, sorry,
Yeah, that's a big
to
one,
fulfill,
including Balaram.
yes, to fulfill the desires of the Gopas and Gopis, to have Krishna as their own son, to bewilder Brahma and throw him into the ocean of dismay, to show Brahma thousands of forms of Vasudev, object of his devotion. After having taught in the Bhagavatam, Krishna took the form of all the calves and boys. And this is getting more interesting. Hare Krishna.
Good. Okay, so now we see, Ian, if you wanted to talk about this a little bit, how Krishna actually did have this relationship with Brahma, and he wanted to solve the problem. Could you put it back at the verse again? There you go, Ian. Why don't you talk about this a little?
I think something happened to his sound. Ian, did you go?
Ian, are
Oh,
you there? No, it's just muted.
Sorry, I got muted.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to discuss this
So,
now.
let me see where I can start now. So, all right, I just read the appropriate. So, while Brahma, believing that he had bewildered Krishna, was being mystified by Lord's energy, Krishna, along with the calves and boy friends, returned home and began performing his usual pastimes, such as eating, etc., etc. So what we're saying then, that this is getting a little more interesting here, because Krishna returned home with the boys. Yeah. Yeah, you were saying that well, Brahma believing that he was bewildered, but we are saying that Krishna returned home with his calves and boyfriends, returned home and began performing his usual pastimes. So in a sense, say that they returned home, but to Brahma, it looked like since Brahma had said, okay, I took the boys and the calves, yes, then they were saying that, okay, they shouldn't be there. But you're saying that Krishna and the boys, you know, they went home, the boys and the calves. So, so in one sense, it appeared to Brahma that he had taken the boys, yes, that to him. But in a sense, Krishna, as he said, Krishna and you know, and the boys, you know, his friends, boys went home.
Right.
So in one sense, seeing that Brahma taking the boys, but Krishna actually it is arranged that, you know, Krishna and he went home and, you know, continued doing things. So we are saying that, and then we are saying that we in that Krishna expanded, you know. So in other words, what you say now, since Brahma thought he had taken the calves and the boys, yes.
Yeah,
then
so
Krishna
he's a
had to
little
show,
confused.
right? So Krishna had to show, say, okay, you know, you're taking the boys and calves. So Brahma shouldn't be able to say the boys and calves, but lo and behold, you know,
Lo
there
and
were
behold.
boys and calves again. So not
Good.
only Brahma got bewildered, but we are looking and say, you know, it's
Yeah.
getting a little bit bewildering to us in the sense that, you know, Krishna went home, but it appears that, you know, a number of things happened. So the more we dive
At
into
this point, let's put it simply. At this point, Brahma's mind is blown totally.
Yeah.
All four of them.
Yes.
Right.
And he said, what interesting is that in Balaram was bewildered too. And, you know, I made a note of that. Yes.
That's the big one.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ian.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Malini, would you like to read?
Actually, Acharya has his hand raised before.
Oh,
we go
I'm
on.
sorry, Acharyaji.
Yeah, sorry. Just briefly, I was this was reminding me in Nectar of Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada, when they're listing Krishna's 64 qualities, and one of them is that Krishna is clever. And the definition of clever is someone who can, by performing one act, can accomplish many different ends just by one act. So Krishna does that so much in different pastimes, but this is a terrific example of that.
Very
A nice
good.
reference.
Bewildering everyone. Okay, so thank you, Acharya, and thank you, Ian. Malini, you want to read?
Yes, I will read. I want to say, like from the previous verse also, you know, in terms of like trying to get knowledge of Krishna's personality, he was really anxious for the cows and the mother and the father. He was really anxious for them. And I found that so touching that, you know, of course, it's one of the ripple in one of his activities. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada says, when you send a stone in the water, there's so many ripple. So one action of Krishna creates so many ripple. But the one that was giving is to give such nice quality to the interaction that Krishna with his devotees and the mother of his devotee and the father and even the cows were on his mind, that they are going to be worried, or they cannot live without their little boys. And of course, they are going to be blessed with the best boys they ever had.
Yes, yes. That's the point coming up right now. That
Yes.
that Krishna is going to fulfill their desire, all of their desires to be the mothers and fathers of Krishna. Even the cows, their babies are Krishna. How perfect. Okay, let's go on.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, verse 13 to 19. By his Vasudev feature, Krishna simultaneously expanded himself into the exact number of missing cowherd boys and calves. With their exact bodily features, their particular types of hand, legs, and other limbs, their sticks, bugles, and flutes, their lunch bag, their particular type of dress and ornaments placed in various ways, their names, age, and form, and their special activities and characteristics. By expanding himself in this way, beautiful Krishna proves the statements, Samagra Jagat, Vishnu Mayam. Lord Vishnu is all-pervading. Purport. Krishna, Param Brahma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is Adyam, the beginning of everything. He is Adi Purusham, the ever useful original person. He can expand himself in more forms than one can imagine, yet he does not fall down from his original form as Krishna. Therefore, he is called Achyuta. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Continuation of the purport. Krishna thus proves that he is everything, that he can become everything, but that still he is personally different from everything. This is Krishna, who is understood by Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva philosophy. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Krishna is always complete, and also he can create millions of universes, all of them full of all opulences. He remains as opulent as ever, without any change. This is explained by different Vaishnavacharyas through philosophies such as Vishuddha-Advaita, Vishistaddvaita, and Dvaita-Advaita. Therefore, one must learn about Krishna from the Acharyas, Acharyavan Purusho Veda. One who follows the path of the Acharya knows things as they are. Such a person can know Krishna as he is, at least to some extent. And as soon as one understands Krishna, one is liberated from material bondage. Tyatva deham punarjanma naiti mamiti so Arjuna.
Very good, very good. One question here. I mean, so many points, but one question here in reference to the verse. You know, sometimes we're acting in such a way we think we're hiding from Krishna, or that no one's going to see what we're doing or thinking or acting or being. Krishna knows everything at all times, whatever you're doing, whatever you're thinking. You know, everyone's lonely in this world. We're lonely, but actually, if we think like that Krishna is right there present and we can't fool him, then we can have a relationship with him. We don't have to be lonely. That's a good solution to the problem. He knows everything that's going on and we can't cheat him. This is the same thing that's being displayed. Also, one of the things that are being displayed. So what else you got to say, Melina?
Well, you know, like reading the verse, that mostly what's happened for me is that it's so personal that Krishna knows every little aspect of his devotees, how they dress, the kind of ornament, their personality, their probably the way they interact with their mother, the way they interact with their father. He knows every details of his devotees, like way of being and taste and characteristics. So that's what came to me for the verse. And then in what Prabhupada goes so much into the purport of that verse from the Brahma Samhita, and it's like Adyam is the first one, but then is so many, and he's older, but he's the youngest. And is inconceivable and is infallible, and then still he can expand himself in all the cowherd boys and all the calves, all at the same time, without disappearing, without losing anything, like to be the complete and perfect whole at any moment. And there is no incompleteness in that purport from Sri Upanishad. It says there is no, if we see incompleteness, it's because our incomplete understanding of the complete. So it's just like to really approach Krishna from that point of so personal and as so perverting and so controlling everything all at the same time. And then, surrendering into him is what will get us there. And I like those philosophies. It's something that always fascinated me. The Suddha-Advaita, like all those parts of the philosophy, because some people, they see God as separated, like a lot of Christian theology is like God is so far away and I'm here and he's so far away. And then there is people who see God everywhere. And that's good too. And then our philosophy is that at the same time, it's inconceivable, but it's simultaneously like is so close that every details and is everywhere. And he's also so far away because he's enjoying with his coward boy and his coward girls, and I don't have access to that either. So it's
Very
interesting.
good. Excellent explanation. Thank you. Perfect. He's been, this whole discussion, this whole verse, the way we're discussing it, it defeats impersonalism. Absolutely. Defeats impersonalism. Thank you. Chetamayi, are you there?
Haribol, Dhamma pranams,
Haribol.
everyone. Glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 13, 20. Now, expanding himself so as to appear as all the calves and cowherd boys, all of them as they were, and at the same time appear as their leader, Krishna entered Vrajbhumi, the land of his father, Nanda Maharaj, just as he usually did while enjoying their company. Purport. Now that the original group had been taken away by Brahma, Krishna himself assumed the forms of every member of the group without anyone's knowledge, even the knowledge of Baladev, and continued the usual program. This was Krishna's inconceivable potency. As explained by Srila Svarup Damodar Goswami, Radha and Krishna are the same. Krishna, by expanding his pleasure potency, becomes Radharani. The same pleasure potency, Ananda Chinmay Ras, was expanded by Krishna when he himself became all the calves and boys and enjoyed the transcendental bliss in Vrajbhumi. This was done by the Yogamaya potency and was inconceivable to persons under the potency of Mahamaya.
Go on reading, because after the next verse we can discuss.
Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 13, 21, and 22. O Maharaj Pariksit, Krishna, who had divided himself as different calves and also as different cowherd boys, entered different cow sheds as the calves, and then different homes as different boys. The mothers of the boys, upon hearing the sounds of the flutes and bugles being played by their sons, immediately rose from their household tasks, lifted their boys onto their laps, embraced them with both arms, and began to feed them with their breast milk, which flowed forth because of extreme love, specifically for Krishna. Actually, Krishna is everything. But at that time, expressing extreme love and affection, they took special pleasure in feeding Krishna, the Parabrahman. And Krishna drank the milk from his respective mothers as if it were a nectarian beverage. Purport. Krishna had many, many friends, of whom Sridham, Sudam, and Subala were prominent. Thus Krishna himself became Sridham, Sudam, and Subala, and entered their respective houses with their respective calves. Although all the elderly gopis knew that Krishna was the son of Mother Yashoda, they still desired, if Krishna had become my son, I would also have taken care of him like Mother Yashoda. This was their inner ambition. Now, in order to please them, Krishna personally took the role of their sons and fulfilled their desire. They enhanced their special love for Krishna by embracing him and feeding him. And Krishna tasted their breast milk to be just like a nectarian beverage. Thus, bewildering Brahma, he enjoyed the special transcendental pleasure created by Yogamaya between all the other mothers and himself.
Ah, wow. So, how would you like that?
It's
How would you
it's
like?
it's different things are being emphasized and spotlights are being put on the relationship between the mothers and their sons and the calves and their mothers. Krishna's he's highlighting these things by his taking on their forms. And this is to fulfill the desires of the mothers at that time. It's true, but it's also showing us that, yes, he really is everything. And none of these entities could have come about into being without Krishna's creative energy being there. So the whole thing is so inclusive and
Inclusive. That's a good word.
right. It's a drama. It's a drama with the different lightings being put on different things, and all of those lights themselves come from Krishna. And it's to remind us that, hey, your family members, your pets, everything that you have, it all comes from me. Don't think that it's separate. Don't think that it's separate. It might be a pointing time in this story where things appear to be separate, but here Krishna is saying, look, it's all this is all about love. This love is 24/7 and we're all involved in it. And somehow we have forgotten it, being in the material world.
We have forgotten being in the material world.
No,
What?
we've forgotten that the love is there, and the love between us
Yeah.
and Krishna is always there.
Yeah, it's always there.
To be remembered and taken advantage of in our devotional service. That's what we're doing. We're reconnecting at every moment. Everything we do, every interaction is between us and Krishna. But we forget about that. We think it's something else, and therefore we get so discouraged and we get so dried up thinking that he's not there, that there's no love there. This is the greatest kind of forgetfulness, forgetting that we have this relationship with Krishna.
Forgetting that he loves us, actually. And
Yes.
this whole thing is him relating to us, right? He's always relating to us, just like Malini was reading the previous verse. Everything that we do, everything that we're going through is Krishna's trying to relate to us, to bring us back to him. We're supposed to be thinking of Krishna 24/7. That's what Prabhupada said. We should think of Krishna 24/7, and the best way to do that is to chant Hare Krishna. Couldn't be simpler. Ian, did you want to say something?
Yes, and quick observation. Is understanding that at a certain age they're allowed to go to the forest of the calves. Yes, but I see when that they were still, having breast milk. So I'm saying that compared to now, when sometimes people have to be encouraged to breastfeed their children, we're saying that these big children were still having breast milk. So I'm just make just an observation in the sense that what a contrast rather that they had to be big boys to go with the calves, but yet they were having breast milk. So I just an observation.
Yeah, it seems to be like a modern day thing that no, you don't give your child breast milk. What is that? People are like shocked that you're supposed to feed your child breast milk up until even the age of 5 or 6.
The boys were 5 during this time.
Yeah.
It's emphasized because it was stated that this happened during his Kumara age, but it wasn't revealed until his Pagunda age when they turned 6.
Right.
I have a
Very good.
question maybe somebody has some insight. We hear that Krishna enjoys relating with other entities. That's why he expanded himself into so many. So he has best friends. It mentions Sudam, Subal, Sridham, like that. They're there. And they're individuals. Now Krishna is taking the part of those individuals exactly as they are, but yet it's him rather than them as individuals. So how much can he really enjoy their friendship when it's him? Or is there really that much of a difference, since ultimately they're his expansions and Shaktis anyway? And how much, the question ultimately arises, how much can we really please Krishna in our relationship with him by our efforts?
Oh my goodness, this is, only I would say the same thing, but my answer is that's what happens to us in the material world. We are conditioned souls, and we can't conceive of these things.
Well, I'm talking specifically about, yeah, that's one of the points, but they're individual entities, Sudam, Subal, Sridham, and now he's playing the parts of them. So just like we read that he was just bewildering Brahma, he's walking around like he's looking for them, when in actuality, the example of the actor is he knows who he is, he knows what's going on, but he's acting.
Okay, then I
So
have another
how much
question for
acting
you.
is going on when he takes the part of everybody?
What about when he expands himself to be Srimati Radharani? And he's expanding himself
That
to
example
be
was there, good.
Srimati Radharani, and why does he do that? Why does he do that? And how does he get into it? How does he get so into it? She's the source of all love. That's his pleasure.
They
Potency.
both have to become covered.
They both have to buy Yoga Maya. This is the
Yes.
pleasure potency at work.
We read that. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavita Bhi. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa.
Nandaji?
Another aspect of that is the word mugdata. Mugdata means that Krishna's consciousness becomes condensed.
Ah, right.
When Krishna takes different incarnations, or just not even that, specifically that word is used in the Damodar Leela when he's afraid of Mother Yasoda's stick and he's crying and his pearl necklace is shaking, because his consciousness is condensed to think, I'm just a little boy and here's my mother and she's angry at me. That's Krishna, Mugdata. It condenses, so he's not acting in that.
He's not acting.
Nice.
He's not acting
right.
like we would think he's acting. He's
He's not
actually
acting like he just was a few moments ago when he's walking around looking, but that was an act.
that was an act.
Ah, good. Thank you.
Very
Good.
good.
Good. Chaita, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just thinking to answer Dhruva's question. It's an amazing question, actually. And I was thinking that Krishna, in taking on the roles of these boys, even though they are individuals in their own right, they have their own opinions and so on, he's appreciating their love, their individual contributions to the relationship. And he's mimicking it, but at the same time, he's in awe of them, saying, I love my friend Subal, and he treats me like this. And when he comes in, he talks like this. And I love when Subal does that. So it's a glorification of his friends when he takes on their role.
Oh, nice.
Okay, this is a big topic. Okay, well, everyone has a chance to speak. Faye, would you like to say something? And then Acharya Malini. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. I keep coming back to the reciprocity here. The more there is an exchange between the devotee and Krishna, the more Krishna is encouraged to exchange, the more the devotee is encouraged to exchange. And that bliss is intensified. If I think of Krishna as the all-attractive one, doesn't it make sense it's possible that he's even attracted to himself? And that being attracted to himself
course.
that magnifies that bliss as well. And the third point I'd like to make is it's amazing to me personally that Krishna is so vast that this kind of rich reciprocity is going on all the time, individually with devotees in every universe, everywhere. It's just mind blowing. But the more we are attracted to Krishna, the more we love him, that reciprocity comes back, the more he loves us. The more Radharani loves him, that reciprocity comes back, the more he loves Radharani. It's back and forth so beautifully going on that it's magnified constantly and it's ever growing, and that bliss is so expansive. It blows my mind completely.
Good.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Charya, did you want to say something, Prabhu?
I don't want to hold things up too much. There's so much commenting going on, but Dhruva's question also really struck me. And in the previous verse, when in the purport, when Prabhupada references Swarup Damodar's verse, Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikatir Ladini Shaktir Asmat. Actually, at first I was sort of wondering, is this verse really applicable? What Prabhupada's saying here? What's the point he's trying to make? But then with Dhruva's question, it made more sense that just like Radharani is an expansion of Krishna, and then the next part of the verse is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in order to taste that love, also appeared, Krishna appearing as a devotee. So here also Krishna is appearing as devotees to taste that side of the relationship.
Oh, that's a good explanation. Thank you.
nice
That I
connection.
really appreciate. Thank you so much. Okay. Malini, want to add to that? If you dare.
Well, I don't have much to add, but it's exactly what I wanted to share, is that part of the purport Srila Prabhupada gives, that I was also quizzical for me, like, oh, those cowherd boys that are Vishnu Tattva, they are in fact the expansion of the pleasure potency. So there are possibilities that Dhruva Maharaj was saying. He enjoys Sudam, and he enjoys Madhu Mangal, and he enjoys all his cowherd boys, Sridham. But that maybe he's enjoying even more with those cowherd boys who are his expansion of his pleasure potency. And for sure, because those cowherd boys do give pleasure to his devotees, the mothers and the cows, and fulfills their desire. It's like, it seems like Chincha was saying, is like Ananda Maya Vyasa, that in fact it's not less pleasure for Krishna, but even more pleasure for Krishna, because and Prabhupada is so clear, like Mother Nanda was sharing at the beginning, imagining Prabhupada, all his organs are breaking down. He's not eating, he has a drop of water in his mouth, and he has the clarity of giving us those purport. And translation is just amazing.
It has nothing to do with his material body. He's absolutely connected with Krishna in the spiritual world. And it's an amazing thing. Thank you.
Sam, as we progress, we're a little bit behind because there was some nice discussion. So
Okay,
let's have
so
just
you know
some
what we're gonna
reading
do?
for a
We're
while.
just gonna go on and read.
Yeah, okay. And then
Very good. Mamatar, would you like to continue for us? Mamatarji.
I'm sorry, text 23 through 25. Thereafter, O Maharaj Parikshit, as required, according to the scheduled round of his pastimes, Krishna returned in the evening, entered the house of each of the cowherd boys, and engaged exactly like the former boys, thus enlivening their mothers with transcendental pleasure. The mothers took care of the boys by massaging them with oil, bathing them, smearing their bodies with sandalwood pulp, decorating them with ornaments, chanting protective mantras, decorating their bodies with tilak, and giving them food. In this way, the mothers served Krishna personally. Thereafter, all the cows entered their different sheds and began mooing loudly. calling for their respective calves. When the calves arrived, the mothers began licking the calves' bodies again and again and profusely feeding them with the milk flowing from their milk bags. Previously, from the very beginning, the gopis had motherly affection for Krishna. Indeed, their affection for Krishna exceeded even their affection for their own sons. In displaying their affection, they had thus
distinguished between Krishna and their sons, but now that distinction disappeared.
Okay, read the
great.
purport,
Thank you.
Mama
It,
Tara.
it blurred in the line
Yeah,
at the
it doesn't
end.
show
and I
your
couldn't
bottom.
see
I
it.
can tell there's some.
Yes, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Go
Thank
on.
you. Purport. The distinction between one's own son and another's son is not unnatural. Many elderly women have motherly affection for the sons of others. They observe distinctions, however, between those other sons and their own. They observe distinctions, however, between those other sons and their own. But now the elderly gopis could not distinguish between their own sons and Krishna. For since their own sons had been taken by Brahma, Krishna had expanded as their sons. Therefore, their extra affection for their sons, who were now Krishna himself, was due to bewilderment resembling that of Brahma. Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur. Krishna, in the form of their sons, forgot his powers as God. Since he assumed the role of their sons, he remained dependent on them, like a commander next to the king. One should not say that such dependence on love is a fault. Rather, it is Krishna's ornament, as the living entity's dependence on Maya is the cause of his sorrow. So Krishna's dependence on prema is the cause of ever increasing bliss. This is the realization of the great devotee.
Good. Go on reading, Mama Tara.
I can't see the rest.
Oh, neither. He's going to.
The great devotees. Okay.
That was the end of the purport, Manmata.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Text 26 through 27. Although the inhabitants of Brajabhumi, the cowherd men and cowherd women, previously had more affection for Krishna than for their own children, now for 1 year, their affection for their own sons continuously increased, for Krishna had now become their sons. There was no limit to the increment of their affection for their sons, who were now Krishna. Every day they found new inspiration for loving their children as much as they loved Krishna. In this way, Lord Sri Krishna, having himself become the cowherd boys and group of calves, maintained himself by himself. Thus he continued his pastimes, both in Vrindavan and in the forest, for 1 year. Purport. Everything was Krishna. The calves, the cowherd boys, and their maintainer himself were all Krishna. In other words, Krishna expanded himself in varieties of calves and cowherd boys and continued his pastimes uninterrupted for 1 year. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's expansion is situated in everyone's heart as a supersoul. Similarly, instead of expanding himself as a supersoul, he expanded himself as a portion of calves and cowherd boys for
1 continuous year.
1 continuous year.
That statement about the super soul is very important.
Okay.
That actually is a solution to all the things. The super
Right.
soul, isn't it, Patty? Do you agree? The super soul. This whole thing is being. I can't hear you. I'm there.
Sorry, I was reading the chat. Somebody put a point up. What?
The super soul is the one. That's how we're able to understand these things. That's how Krishna is able to understand everything about each of his friends and each of the living entities, because he's the super soul and he's right in there experiencing everything.
Now he's
that's
both.
the soul. Now he's both. Okay, he can do that. He can do that. Inconceivable. All right, you gave me the instruction to go on reading, so
Well,
let's.
actually, those different verses all had a similar theme.
Yeah.
They were all describing the love between Krishna as the cowherd boys and calves and their mothers. So if there are any questions or comments, I think we've pretty much covered it, because now the next, there's a slight change in the narration and a new phase, a new petal on the flower manifests.
Yeah, I think that it's funny how Prabhupada left it to the last sentence, the super soul. Because I was thinking about that throughout the whole thing. And yeah. Can we share your statement that you said, Acharya, on the chat? That was so cool. So all the gopis had an opportunity to celebrate Krishna's birthday as their son. And that was very sweet. Thank you. All right, let's go on reading with Nanda. Would you like to read?
Sure. 13th chapter, 28th to 30th verse. One day, 5 or 6 nights before the completion of the year, Krishna, tending the calves, entered the forest along with Balaram. While pasturing atop Govardhan Hill, the cows looked down to find some green grass and saw their calves pasturing nearby, near Vrindavan, not very far away. When the cows saw their own calves from the top of Govardhan Hill, they forgot themselves and their caretakers because of increased affection. And although the path was very rough, they ran toward their calves with great anxiety, each running as if with one pair of legs. Their milk bags full and flowing with milk, their heads and tails raised, and their humps moving with their necks. They ran forcefully until they reached their calves to feed them. The cows had given birth to new calves, but while coming down from Govardhan Hill, the cows, because of increased affection for the older calves, allowed the older calves to drink milk from their milk bags and then began licking the calves' bodies in anxiety as if wanting to swallow them. The cowherd men, having been unable to check the cows from going to their calves, felt simultaneously ashamed and angry. They crossed the rough road with great difficulty, but when they came down and saw their own sons, they were overwhelmed with great affection. At that time, all the thoughts of the cowherd men merged into the mellow of paternal love, which was aroused by the sight of their sons. Experiencing a great attraction, their anger completely disappearing, they lifted their sons, embraced them in their arms, and enjoyed the highest pleasure by smelling their sons' heads. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Generally, the calves and cows are pastured separately. The elderly men take care of the cows and the small children see to the calves. This time, however, the cows immediately forgot their position as soon as they saw the calves below Govardhan Hill. And they ran with great force, their tails erect and their front and hind legs joined until they reached their calves. After Brahma stole the original cowherd boys and calves, Krishna expanded himself to become the boys and calves again. Therefore, because the boys were actually Krishna's expansion, the cowherd men were especially attracted to them. At first, the cowherd men who were on top of the hill were angry. But because of Krishna, the boys were extremely attractive. And therefore, the cowherd men immediately came down from the hill with special affection.
Well, okay, now I want you to explain this, but you know, it's funny, it's wonderful. Prabhupada describes the same thing over and over again in so many words. He's really describing the whole thing in so many words. It's amazing. Go on.
Yeah, and that, but ultimately what he's pinpointing is how Krishna is so attractive. And because the cowherd boys, the little cowherd boys that are herding the calves are Krishna, and the men are seeing them as their son, but their attraction is increasing because it's their Krishna son. And the calves, even though they had other calves, they had another calf after the original Krishna calves, they're still so attractive because Krishna is the all-attractive supreme personality of Godhead. Haribol.
Oh, very wonderful. Thank you. So, wow, that covers it all right there. Shall we have, there's Chaita. Do you want to say something, Chaita?
Haribol, I just find it comical in text 32. It says, the cowherd men, they were feeling ashamed and angry that they'd totally lost control of the situation. These cows, we're supposed to be herders and we keep them confined, and now that they got away from us, and now we really hate ourselves. But all of a sudden, then the thing flips and they're feeling what the cows are feeling, and they understand now this is why it's absolutely irresistible.
Very
Nice.
good. That's
Yeah.
very sweet, Rasa. All right, shall we go on reading Acharya?
Text 34 through 37. Thereafter, the elderly cowherd men, having obtained great feeling from embracing their sons, gradually and with great difficulty and reluctance, ceased embracing them and returned to the forest. But as the men remembered their sons, tears began to roll down from their eyes. Because of an increase of affection, the cows had constant attachment even to those calves that were grown up and had stopped sucking milk from their mothers. When Baladev saw this attachment, he was unable to understand the reason for it, and thus he began to consider as follows. What is this wonderful phenomenon? The affection of all the inhabitants of Raja, including me, toward these boys and calves is increasing as never before, just like our affection for Lord Krishna, the super soul of all living entities. Who is this mystic power, and where has she come from? Is she a demigod or a demoness? She must be the illusory energy of my master, Lord Krishna, for who else can bewilder me? Purport. The cows had younger calves who had started sucking milk from their mothers, and some of the cows had newly given birth. But now, because of love, the cows enthusiastically showed their affection for the older calves, which had left off milking. These calves were grown up, but still the mothers wanted to feed them. Therefore, Balaram was a little surprised, and he wanted to inquire from Krishna about the reason for their behavior. The mothers were actually more anxious to feed the older calves, although the new calves were present. Because the older calves were expansions of Krishna, these surprising events were taking place by the manipulation of Yoga Maya. There are two Mayas working under the direction of Krishna: Mahamaya, the energy of the material world, and Yoga Maya, the energy of the spiritual world. These uncommon events were taking place because of the influence of Yoga Maya. From the very day on which Brahma stole the calves and boys, Yoga Maya acted in such a way that the residents of Vrindavan, including even Lord Balaram, could not understand how Yoga Maya was working and causing such uncommon things to happen. Balaram was surprised. Quote, "This Maya might be some Rakshasi Maya," he thought. "But how can Rakshasi Maya have any influence upon me? This is not possible. Therefore, it must be the Maya of Krishna," unquote. He thus concluded that the mystical change must have been caused by Krishna, whom Balaram considered his worshipable personality of Godhead. He thought, quote, "It was arranged by Krishna, and even I could not check its mystic power," unquote. Thus, Balaram understood that all these boys and calves were only expansions of Krishna.
Okay, I have to mention something here. Pati, you want to go back to the verse for a moment? This is very clear that the mystic energy, who is my mystic power? Where has she come from? Is she a demigod or a demoness? She must be the illusory energy of my master, Lord Krishna. Who else can bewilder me? So notice how the energy of the Lord is in the feminine gender. That's feminine. The energy of the Lord is feminine. The Lord is masculine. And that's a distinction there. Might not go over big in the world nowadays, but this is actually the fact. The energy is Prakriti. We are all feminine relation to Krishna. He is the supreme enjoyer. He is the Godhead. Radharani and up to the little ant, we are all here for Krishna's pleasure. So this reference to the potency, not the potent, is clearly mentioned she. I thought that that was a really wonderful, clear point for discussion. But what else do you think, Acharya, about this verse and purport?
This is actually this is my favorite part of this particular pastime. Both, I guess, probably because I'm in a male body and attached to it. I like to see the cowherd men getting some love, and I really like the their transformation. Like the other devotee said, how they're angry, they're ashamed, and then it turns into love, and they're shedding tears. I really love that, and I really love that Balaram is so intelligent that he was able to, maybe not in every detail, but he figured out, at least in broad strokes, he was able to understand what was going on by seeing how everyone's love, including his own.
Yeah.
So I like that Balaram's so intelligent that he was able to do that.
That also must be rasa, that Krishna didn't actually allow him to see it immediately.
Yeah, for
said,
1 year.
Whoa, and he figured it out, because that moment of realization of something is very big and very sweet.
It's
Very
actually an insight into the nature, the character of Balaram himself. Remember, we read earlier that he's also in charge of agriculture. He's a Vaishya. He's in charge. He knows cows. He knows how things work. For a whole year, things were going on a certain way. But when he saw an anomaly, when he saw something that wasn't supposed to be quite the way it was, that's when it kicked in, and he thought, what is, there's something not right here. And even just as a cowherd boy, he understood it.
All right, we're almost at the end here. So let's continue with Faye and then Ian, and then that'll be the end of it for today.
Thank you, Mataji. Verses 38 through 39. Thinking in this way, Lord Balaram was able to see with the eye of transcendental knowledge that all these calves and Krishna's friends were expansions of the form of Sri Krishna. Lord Baladev said, "O Supreme Controller, these boys are not great demigods as I previously thought, nor are these calves great sages like Narada. Now I can see that you alone are manifesting yourself in all varieties of difference. Although one, you are existing in the different forms of the calves and boys. Please briefly explain this to me." Having thus been requested by Lord Baladev, Krishna explained the whole situation, and Baladev understood it. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. At the request of Balaram, Krishna briefly explained the whole situation, how the calves and the boys were stolen by Brahma, and how he was concealing the incident by expanding himself so that people would not know that the original calves and boys were missing. Balaram understood, therefore, that this was not Maya, but Krishna's opulence. Krishna has all opulences, and this was but another opulence of Krishna.
Next one. Hati.
Do you want Ian to read the next one?
Yes,
You said?
yes. Yeah, well, and then we'll discuss it. Ian?
Oh, it says purport continued?
Yes.
Okay, so according to the Vedic version, Ekam Bahu Shayam, he can expand himself into many thousands and millions, but still remain one. In that sense, everything is spiritual because everything is an expansion of Krishna. That is, everything is an expansion either of Krishna himself or of his potency. Because the potency is not different from the potent, potency and the potent are one. Shakti Matayo Abhidaha. The Maya bodies, however, say Chitta Sit, Saman Vaya. Spirit and matter are one. This is a wrong conception. Spirit, chit, is different from matter, achit, as explained by Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita 7:4-5. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these eight comprise my separated material energies. But besides this inferior nature, O mighty Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mind. It consists of all living entities who are struggling with material nature and are sustaining the universe. End of quote. Spirit and matter cannot be made one, for actually they are superior and inferior energies, yet the Maya bodies or Advaita bodies try to make them one. This is wrong. Although matter and spirit ultimately come from the same one source, they can not be made one. For example, there are many things that come from our bodies, but although they come from the same source, they cannot be made one. We should be careful to know that although the supreme source is one, the emanations from this source should be separately regarded as inferior and superior. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy, therefore, is a Achintya Bheda Tattva. Simultaneous oneness and difference. For example, fire and heat cannot be separated. For where there is fire, there is heat, and where there is heat, there is fire. Nonetheless, although we cannot touch fire, heat we can tolerate. Therefore, although they are one, they are different. Hare Krishna.
Oh, wonderful explanation by Srila Prabhupada about all of
Yeah.
this. Okay, Ian, would you like to comment a little on that, Prabhu?
So quickly, there's the simultaneous oneness and difference, and they're saying that in contrast with my body's feel that everything is one. So this says that, you give an example, say in the body, they are different. Everything comes on the body, different sources, but they are not one, they're different. It's also giving importance of heat and fire. So fire gives heat, and also there's heat and there's light. But they came from the same source, but certainly they're not the same.
Right.
Yes. So yes. So the big difference between the Mayavadis, philosophy, and we are in that. So okay, the oneness, but yeah, the oneness and difference, and we're saying that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Achintya Bheda Tattva, we're in that oneness but difference. So basically
Very
that's
good.
it. And the example of heat and fire is very, very profound.
Yeah.
Heat you can tolerate, but we're saying that heat you can tolerate heat, but you're not going to be able to tolerate the fire.
Yeah.
Yes, because it warms us up anytime it's cold. But certain fire, is another thing. But it came from the same source.
Good.
So that's my understanding.
That's
Hare
good
Krishna.
understanding. Perfect.
Yeah.
Prabhupada put it so perfectly.
Yeah.
Wow, what a lot we covered today. Would anyone like to say their realizations of any of these topics? Think about it for a second and what would it? Pati, would you like to say something?
Tatamayi said something, I think.
Oh, Cheta, sorry.
Haribol, thank you. The question comes to my mind that when Yoga Maya operates and she's drawing like a magnet and there's no stopping it, does that mean our free will is being usurped?
Well, my understanding of that is a devotee wants to align his free will with Krishna. You choose to align your free will with Krishna. You can either align your free will with Yogamaya or Mahamaya. So I don't mind being under the control of Yogamaya. That anything else?
So it remains a conscious choice at all times. It's never a being taken over. It's always. So maybe that's another definition of oneness and difference, simultaneous oneness and difference.
I don't know. It's a very subtle point.
Yeah.
But a devotee always wants to be aligned.
That is the surrender of one's will to the will of God, to the
Right.
will of Krishna. That's love. in its ultimate expression, one's caring more about the pleasure of the beloved rather than one's own self. It's not really giving up one's own choice or free
Okay.
will. It's
That's what I-
expressing it in a different way, in a loving way for the pleasure of the beloved.
Thank you. That helps.
Yeah.
This
I
was
mean,
really,
yeah,
I love
you're not-
the way this story, this part of it we read today, ends, as you mentioned, Sama, with Balaram. What a technique. I mean, it's not only a literary ornament, it's like a whole Leela that everybody's bewildered. How is this going to come to a revelation? And it's Balaram himself who brings it to that point and inquires from Krishna, what is this? This isn't right. It's so beautiful.
Anyone else have something to say about this? Everything is perfect in the Bhagavatam. It's up to us to understand it and link up with it. Ian.
Yeah, just to say, the uniqueness of Krishna's Leela, there's some different points or different parts, come together in a Leela. And just remember, okay, the aspect of the potent and the potency being acting at the same time. So the Lord is a potent, and Yoga Maya the potency. Yes, so yes, and that, and also the part that struck me, I remember this man saying that Balaram was bewildered, but then the bewilderment came just a few days before the end of the year, when I just saying that the thing that would have made him look up is that usually the cows having younger calves were not so attracted to the older calves because they would have been by themselves. Okay, so they're saying that it's not natural for the cows that have young calves to be attracted to the older ones. So yes, but Balaram being bewildered is a part of Krishna Leela, and it says the uniqueness of Krishna Leela. That's all that there. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you.
Someone
Lady?
else?
Yeah, maybe.
The parts that have been really growing in my head reading this pastime is the tree sets. There's three sets. There's a tree set of cowherd boys and cows. There's one set that's Maya. And there is a set that's maybe like unmanifested and having their pastime with Krishna, or maybe dormant. It's unclear. and then there is a set that's Vishnumurti, Krishna. And I was thinking how to relate that to my own life and seeing, okay, there is the Maya me, completely covered by the material energy, 100%, and that one I know well. But there is a me that's also, maybe dormant, but also maybe associating with Krishna at every moment. Like the soul is always in connection with Krishna. And then there is a me that's in direct connection with Super Soul, and that also exists here. It is manifested here. Maybe I'm not aware, but the Super Soul is like using me for everybody else's pastime and his pastime. So that's what I've been going on, like just thinking of those three sets, and I found it very fascinating to meditate on that.
Good. It is very fascinating, no doubt about it. Hare Krishna. Pati, unmute.
Just said I'm looking forward to all of it being more revealed as the flower blossoms of these Leelas.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna.
Panchakalpa tubhishcha
Panchakalpa
kripa
tubhishcha,
sindhubhyacha
kripa
patitanam
sindhubhyacha,
Vaishnava
Vaishnava
Jai Hari Bolo.